Common sense isn't gone. It just needs a comeback. Common sense superheroes with David and Greg.
The boys are back in town. I wish we could play music, but we can't. So you got to put up with me singing. But I am so excited to be back. I'm glad you back, Gregory. I don't want to say this, but I kind of missed you, big dog. I did.
I will tell you, Dave, I was sharing with you a little bit offline. Everybody I've ever been to Vegas with says it's a 3 or 4 day trip max, and then you get your butt back home because that's all you can handle. And I think I could live it out there if I could afford the gambling side of things. I think I could embrace that as an everyday style of life. Could I make money doing it? We had a great time, my man. Celebrated the birthday girl. I think she thoroughly enjoyed her trip. I'm still trying to adjust to having my brain and my body back in the right and get the wires connected again. But had a good time. Maybe somebody paid attention to some of the gambling advice I shared before I flew out there and did okay this weekend, but we'll get into that.
We will get into that. And I will say, as I was on my in my driveway with a shovel and some table salt, because I was like, it ain't gonna be that bad. I'm not gonna go get damn real salt from Home Depot. But it was bad. And as I was throwing table salt onto some ice so my lovely wife could get out and go to work, as I was slipping and falling in my Crocs and my pajamas trying to get the ice off her windshield, I thought, you know what? I hope Greg's having a good time out in Vegas. And turns out he did, because I went and looked at some pictures and stuff that his lovely young wife posted. I keep saying that. Not jealous, just stating the obvious.
It is factual.
I saw a picture of you and her dressed to the nines. I'm talking just looking just as young and as pretty as could be, with the fountains in the background, and you had a drink in your hand. She looked lovely. You even dressed up nice. And here I am in my pajamas kicking ice off my wife's car so she can get to work. I just want you to know that's what I saw. And that's how I felt.
And share with you that it was colder than it looked in the pictures. It was now it was not what y'all dealt with here back at home, but it was chilly out there. I don't think we saw anything over 54. I mean, it was cold.
Once again, the other day when I was at work, it said feels like temperature outside was 0. 0. Feels like 0. Oh, the 54, I would have put on a tank top, Greg. Okay. The kids were
Dave,
home. The kids couldn't go to school. I was home with the kids all day. It was horrible. But hey,
well,
hope you enjoyed Wizard of Oz at the Spear, though.
oh, I didn't get invited to that.
I actually would have went to that.
Participated in very few of the planned activities.
I actually would have went to that. It did look like you had a good time. I joke, but it was pretty torturous here. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as they said, which is great. But that doesn't take an effect that it was still bad. And we thankfully did not lose power, although several did. We were very fortunate. So it was nice. At least if I got TV and internet, the kids won't drive me too damn crazy. Plus, they love sledding. So a lot of sledding. But like Greg said, going to Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, when you think of Vegas, you could think of two things: girls with no tops on at the shows, from what I hear, and betting and gambling. And like Greg said, once again, I don't want to fill his head up with just his head any bigger than it already is. My man went another perfect 100% on betting. I'm so flustered by it that it's so unbelievable that we've had 2 shows where we talk about bets. And if you bet with Greg, you could live out in Vegas right now. Or at least
You
go.
could, but I wouldn't advise it as a long-term strategy. The last week and a half has been pretty good, at least as what I have released here. Yeah, if you paid attention, I kind of read both of the games pretty well, leaned on the right side both ways, leaned on the totals correctly on both sides. The one play I said I was going to be on was the Rams -2.5, and that got home. It was a great game. I will admit that probably the entire time I was out there, everything in me kept trying to switch my mind. I wanted so badly to back Matthew Stafford and the Rams. I wanted that story. I knew it was going to come down to him having the ball at the end, and I wanted him to win that football game. But for once in my life, I stuck with my numbers. I stuck with what my head said. My head said Seattle at home at anything less than a field goal is a gift, and you just take it and you go to the pay window and collect your money.
Look, the game was the first game, Denver and New England. It was New England -4.5. The game ended up being 10-7. Greg took Denver, lost by 3, so he's a point and a half up at that. So you
A
won
win's a
that one.
win.
And listen, my wife, she don't say much when we watch football, but as soon as he missed that field goal or didn't go for that field goal, excuse me, she said, "That's gonna come back to haunt you." And every time you think it's gonna come back to haunt you, it comes back to haunt you. It's unbelievable how often that happens. And it was from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, obviously, was a huge difference. About late in the third quarter, it started getting icy and snowy,
Mhm.
which I loved. And so you knew, like, man, 3 points, field goal, that's gonna
It
be
is
hard to
a
come by.
and I think when the weather moved in, you were kinda sure at that point that it was gonna be a tight, close game coming down to the end, and, it sounds so cliche to say it in the sports world, but so often you find in these big games, it is that one almost fluke play, it's a special teams play, it is something that is more generally outside of the normal course of just offense versus defense, but it comes down to this, there's 3 phases of the game, and you gotta participate and succeed in all of them to get the W. Congrats to the Patriots for winning. Like I said, I think we all were leaning on them winning the game. I just thought it would be closer than the 3 points, and turns out it was.
Yeah, and, even with the weather the way it was, when it came down to the field goal at the end to tie it, he damn near got it, but, I don't know who it was, I can't remember who it was, but got a hand up and actually hit the ball. If he not hit it, I think he would've made that, and that would've been a hell of a kick in those conditions, with that weather and
Well,
that
and
situation.
I don't care what anybody says. You and I've been, at least to some degree, athletes in our life, and in those kind of conditions, I don't care how used to it you are, how prepped for it you can be. Your body doesn't function normally when it's that cold, it's that wet and ice. You just none of us. I mean, think about trying to hit a golf shot when it's 20 degrees outside. You're either so bundled up you can't swing, or you're so cold you can't swing. I'm not making excuses for the guy. I mean, he's a professional and his job's to go out there and make the kick. But man, let's all be real and admit, as manly as we want to pretend to be, those kind of conditions take a toll on any of us.
No, and it was very cold here. Like I said, wind chill at one point was 0, but mostly it hovered around, 19, 20 degrees. And, no, I'm not built for that. And I'm built more for that than I am, like, 110, but still, that's ridiculous, and to go out and play in that is tough, and the kids somehow did it without facing them. But anyways,
They are unaware of it.
they're different. So, not only did he get that, you took was it over when you leaned the
I
first game?
one of my leans was in the second game. I thought there'd be a little more points and a little more scoring than the experts did, and turns out that we were correct on that lean as well.
Yeah, so that's 2 and 2 for that game, and then we go on to the night game, which was the Matthew Stafford, like we talked about, Rams versus the Seahawks, and I actually took the Seahawks in that one. The first one I took New England, but if you're gonna go outright, then I took New England and I won, but the points wise, I didn't get it. But in this one, I took Seattle. Greg took Seattle. It was Seattle given 2.5. The score ended up being 30-27,
It was
and
close.
it was close.
And I called it on the show. I said one of the likely outcomes was going to be Stafford's got the ball down 3 or 4 points, and that's going to decide the game. And that's exactly how it played out.
And let me tell you something. The running back for Seattle. Oh my God. Do not let him get running downhill. Walker the third. I should.
I
You know
remember
what?
him a
A
little
good
bit at Michigan
podcaster would have wrote
State.
that down.
Yeah, I remember a little bit watching him at Michigan State, and I always liked his game back then. I never dreamed he would have had the success he has, but he is, he's somebody who's continued to work at his craft, and that man the last couple of years is absolutely one of the best backs in the league. And I don't know if it's just playing in Seattle or if it's the fact that he does share some carries. Man, he does not get the recognition he deserves for what he's able to do on the field.
And I wasn't gonna bring it up because I forget to write down their names, but that's never stopped me before. I get a lot of names wrong. But Walker the third, beast, like just unbelievable. I don't want to say beast mode just because that's easy, couldn't you counting in Seattle, but just twitchy, but yet
Hmm.
powerful, just kept running. And in Djibouti Smith, I can't remember who it was.
Dang, Smith and Jingba.
Smith and Jingba. Oh, however, see, I Steve got it wrong. Dude, that catch he made in the corner where he just palms it and the ball doesn't even move. And then when it was down in a crucial play where they needed to make a stop, how is he wide open? Why, of all the people, I'm letting somebody else beat me. He is not beating me wide open in the end zone. And Darnold, I don't know how if he's been hidden up in Minneapolis or Minnesota, but the boy throws a beautiful ball. I'm talking about a perfect, pretty spiral, great ball on point. Maybe he's better than I thought. I don't know, but he throws a damn good ball.
He does. I think he's one of those that may suffer a little bit from the overhyped expectations of, being the Elite 11 5-star guy into college and being a Southern Cal absolute stud, lighting up the world there and coming like I think the expectation was for him to just come into the NFL and immediately do it. And as is the case so often, it took him a few years to get his feet under him. And I think now, I think again, he's somebody that may not get quite the shine he deserves, but the kid's been impressive as heck the last few years. And I mean, he was on the money in this game. And I mean, call it what it is. He out gunslingered Matt Stafford, and that's
Yeah.
saying something.
That's big time.
I don't know what saying gunslingered is. It can't be a word, but it's going to work.
It is. It's a verb, I think. I don't know. We'll go with that. It was 46.5 points was the over, and Greg took that and ended up being that. So we both took Seattle, given 2.5, and we both were right on that. So again, if you're betting with Greg, you're a perfect what's it, 6-0 now on all the bets?
It would actually be 8-0 if you count all the
8-0.
leans and everything we've talked about. Be a good time to stop betting with Greg.
Yeah, maybe come to me. But although I usually just bet winners and losers, and so far I'm 4-0. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I know much, but apparently I know a little bit. What else I do know is, speaking of Seattle and speaking of New England and speaking of a Super Bowl from a while back, one of the smartest plays I've ever seen in my life is I take it back. One of the dumbest plays I've ever seen in my life is not handing the ball off to the aforementioned Marshawn Lynch beast mode at the end zone. So Pete Carroll, that was stupid. But a smart move is Bill Belichick working on that in the weeks prior, knowing that they were going to do that play. And Malcolm Butler. See, again, I need to write these names down. I feel bad. Malcolm Butler jumped the pass, got a pick at the crucial moment at the end of the Super Bowl. That right there, you would say to yourself, man, whatever coach decided to think it's going to come down to that play in that particular moment where it's going to be crucial, whatever coach thought of that should be a Hall of Fame coach. You would be right. But you know what? He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, according to some people. What Bill Belichick at his first chance at being a first ballot Hall of Famer, which, let me see, I think I got it down here. 133 wins, I believe, is second in the NFL, maybe behind Don Shula, maybe. 31 playoff wins, most in history. 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 Super Bowl wins, and I don't even think that counts the 2 that he had when he was assistant coach with the Giants. If that resume doesn't get you first ballot Hall of Famer, then there's no first ballot Hall of Famers, period. End of discussion, never. I love Dion, but if Bill Belichick's not in there, then Dion ain't in there.
David, we live in a world full of just petty little justice warriors, and this can be nothing other than that. There is absolutely no other excuse for not putting this man in on the first ballot. There's no reason really for it not to be a unanimous first ballot. I mean, it can only be some petty vindictive writers that didn't like him because he was a butthole. And I get it. It's the Barry Bonds treatment. You can talk with Belichick about Spygate and Deflategate. It doesn't in any way diminish from his legendary status as an NFL coach. No more than look what Barry Bonds was before he ever thought about a steroid, was the best player in baseball. And you can't throw it completely out there. He never failed a test. Again, the objection is that we all know what everybody of that era was doing, but when you're basing something and you're affecting somebody's livelihood, to me, it's no different than in a court. There has to be some evidence. Like there has to be something. The fact he never failed a test would hold up. But no, Belichick, absolutely. First ballot Hall of Famer, should have been unanimous, in my opinion. And it can be nothing other than just vindictive pettiness that kept him out.
And I think a lot of the owners are the ones that vote for it. And that is strictly I can't beat you, but I'll show you. And don't give me this Deflategate junk, because I feel like cheating or Spygate rather. I feel like cheating is above. Everybody tries to do it. You always try to get an advantage to people. Heard somebody talking the other day. It's like, we had a high school coach that would never watch a single game of ours because he was at another game watching that game ahead of time. And you know they're going to be in practices. I mean, if
Well, and
he's not,
players change teams. Like there's so much
yes, everybody
information
knows,
shared.
everybody gets, there's been transactions take place, not because they wanted the player, they wanted the playbook that the player could remember. That's happened a lot. I promise you that happened. There's a lot of
Yes,
players that got signed because where they played, not how they played.
yes, there are very few secrets at that level. They all know everything about each other's playbooks. They've all coached with each other, the same players. The information gets out. It's petty vindictiveness, nothing more. It can be nothing else.
Just, I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's just so unreal and so unfathomable. And listen, is he a likable guy? No, of course not. Nobody likes him. I mean, who likes Bill Belichick? I mean, even the people that play with him that love him don't like him. They just know he's a damn good coach, and he is. He's the GOAT of all time, plain and simple. He's the GOAT, and ironically, they're best friends. He's the GOAT of NFL, and Nick Saban's the GOAT of college, and they're best friends. And they once coached together in Cleveland, I believe. But
Facts.
that's like not putting Nick Saban in because you're like, well, we don't really care for Alabama. It doesn't matter. He's still the GOAT, plain and simple.
No, and we get back to and we won't rehash the Andrew Jones argument about the Baseball Hall of Fame,
That I was
but
right on.
my argument about the word fame applies here. Bill Belichick is in the Hall of Fame, no question. There's been no more visible or known head coach in the last 2 decades. He is absolutely. You cannot tell the NFL story. You can't include the last 20 years if you don't mention Bill Belichick and what he did. That is a Hall of Famer. Like that's how I look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that is, if I'm sticking to the definition of what the Hall of Fame should be, in my opinion, I don't see how anybody doesn't vote for Belichick other than they just didn't like him.
And he is in the Player Hall of Fame. I keep giving Greg credit about, and I somewhat flack, about having a young wife. Your wife is old compared to his girl, because my man, Bill Belichick, I'm talking, listen, I ain't one to hate on nobody. But
Yes, you are.
if you see them together, I'm like, come on, man. How much money does Bill Belichick actually got? Because it must be more than I thought. Because damn, she
Da-
looks like she's 20. I think she's 20 something years old, and he's
David,
pushing
I can
70.
tell you as a spouse with a 12-year age gap that sort of generational spread can create some interesting conversations and interesting dynamics. I cannot imagine having a 50. You're darn near changing diapers at that point.
I mean, me and my wife are only a couple years, and there's a lot of TV shows I talk about. She ain't got no clue what I'm talking about, much less that.
Uh-huh.
He's out there talking about damn Andrew Griffin show, and she's like, "What? I'm watching Nick at Night, having to watch that." Drake and Josh, or Josh and Drake. Hell, I don't even know who that's past me. But he is in the Player Hall of Fame, and he damn sure should be a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer. But we'll switch notes. We do have some stuff to get to later about another protester shooting that took place in Minneapolis. We'll get to that, but we'll try to keep it a little lighter right now. You were out in Vegas having a good time, like I said, with your young, smoking hot wife. I keep mentioning that because as I was shoveling ice, but whatever.
Hey, she likes hearing it, brother. She does listen.
Did you by chance watch Alex Honnold, the climb when he climbed the building in Chinese Taipei?
I did not watch
Honnold.
that. I do not typically watch that sort of stuff because in all honesty, am not sure what to make of that sort of spectacle. Because on one hand, it is quite possibly the most amazing thing I can think of a human being doing. But on the other hand, I simply can't get past the question of why. Like, what possesses you to do that? And what's
No.
wrong with you? Like, why do that?
Alex, if you don't know what we're talking about, which I'm sure you do, because I think it got incredible numbers. Alex Honnold scaled the Taipei 101 skyscraper in Taiwan live on Netflix. Free solo climbed, which the free solo documentary we watched years ago was really good, and it blew my mind. But solo climb, if you're not familiar, is when you climb with no ropes, no nothing. You just basically climb and hope for the best. You got a little fanny pack with some chalk in it. You got your headphones in, and that's about it. This joker climbed, it was 1,667 feet. If you want to put that in terms that you might understand, there was one time a guy played softball for the Beer Batters in Macon, Georgia. He hit 4 home runs in one game. I hear about this a lot. Every time I go to Macon, everybody's like, "Is that him? Is that?" It's me. Okay, 4 home runs in one game, probably totaling 1,667 feet. And this guy climbed the equivalent of my home runs straight up in the air without Greg. Don't be doing the math trying to dissect it. How long that actually was? I know that'd be like 400 feet, but still,
I'm still factoring the wind.
he climbed straight up, speaking of wind, on a windy condition, straight up over these little dragon things going out while people were in the building, like videoing him and waving at him as he goes by. And he would stop and just wave and then climb up some ridiculous dragon. It was the most nerve wracking yet exciting, can't turn away, but don't want to watch 2.5 hours that me and my wife have watched in a long time.
Feel like to some degree, Dave, you kind of glossed over a couple of times what to me is the most important part.
The
This
four
this
home
feat
runs.
was
Yeah. The 4 home runs.
this yes, absolutely. Your 4 home runs, yes, for sure. We'll never ever forget it. Trust me.
How could you?
This dude did this up a building. Like this is not.
Yeah.
I've walked beside buildings. I've never thought I can climb one. They're pretty darn flat. This is not something that has a lot of hand and footholds. And this is no ropes, no gear, no partner, no nothing up the side of a building that just happens to be stupid, ridiculously tall.
And not like I'm gonna start on a ladder and climb up. No, it was off. In fact, the worst part was when he got to the top, there was a straight up little, I say antenna, but it was something similar to that, that he would have to climb up a little bitty ladder that they concocted just to get to it. And the ladder was the worst part. The wind was blowing. He couldn't get up the ladder. He climbed up a damn outside of a dragon going up better than he did that little ladder. It was just, like I said, it was shocking. His wife was sitting there watching him. I was like, dude, we're about to watch this dude die right in front of us. It was just unbelievable. And if you watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you can go back and watch it now, but it wouldn't be the same because it wouldn't be live. But it was just well done and just I don't know. There's no words, like you said. I just don't understand. And
There is one
apparently,
word, Dave. The one
yes,
word is why.
is yes. Well, apparently, there's word that he only made like 500,000. Which, yes, 500,000 is a good amount of money, but nah, you couldn't give me 500,000 to free climb my house
No,
without a ladder.
no, heck no.
So it'd have to be a whole hell of a lot more than 500,000. What would be your number?
I don't think there is one for that.
It doesn't make me a
I mean, I
climber.
know whatever the number would be, I would not be around to spend it. So there is no number that matters.
The scariest part was when he'd get to a certain spot where it had like a little ledge. He would stop and look out and just wave. I'm talking 700, 800 feet up in the air, just looking over, waving with the wind blowing, just terrifying. It was by far the worst part. And he just did it like it wasn't nothing. I don't understand what's in his brain. I don't understand the chemistry makeup that says, I don't care. I'm not scared.
That is almost to the degree like sometimes when you're watching a sports and you see like a gruesome injury, like watching somebody in that position would give me anxiety to the way seeing somebody who breaks their leg when it's all flopping around and it just even though I can't imagine what it feels like, something inside me goes that can't be good and I swell up with anxiety.
I can't do the gruesome stuff anymore. Like when Tosh Porno used to do that on his show all the time. I was
Yeah.
like, please stop showing that. Speaking of, I don't understand the brain chemistry. Back to a more somber subject, I guess if you want to say it. This past weekend, I think it was Saturday, we had another protester shot by this time Border Patrol in Minneapolis, Alex Preddy. And if you watch the video, as it first comes up, you're like, okay, that didn't look good. No matter which way you look at it, from the video you saw, it did not look good. Did you see the video?
Honestly, Dave, I got to be honest with the travel and the festivities out there. I wasn't really plugged into anything over the weekend. I'm still trying to catch up on my podcast and see clips of stuff. So I have not seen it just from the way I have heard the video described. It certainly sounds as if there's some questionable decision making there, but it also sounds like there's just a lot of variables that, in this case, trying to point blame is one thing, but trying to enact any sort of justice from a situation like this, I just don't know that that's even possible.
It's the video itself, which I said I was gonna learn how to do all this, but with the ice, I wasn't able to figure out how to show the video so you could see it. But the video itself, when it shows, obviously it comes on at a certain spot. It won't let you see the whole video because, God forbid, CNN or somebody show the whole thing.
Yes, we don't want context in this
Yeah,
world.
God forbid. But it shows him, I guess, Border Patrol is going to move a lady out of the street and him. They push a lady out of the way, which is not a good look, but you don't know before that how many times they've been honking and pushing at them and things like that. If you go watch it, any of the videos on X, they're just constantly honking, harassing the cops, harassing the agents and all that. So anyway, they show him, the agents pushing the lady out of the way, and it supposedly shows Alex Pretty jumping in front of the lady to try to help out. Well, admirable, if you want to say that. However, by helping out, if you're putting your hands on agents and pushing them back, that's not allowed. I'm sorry, plain and simple. They pepper spray the Alex and the lady. The lady falls down. Alex, for some reason, goes down as well, he pushed down, but he grabs the lady and starts yanking on the lady for some odd reason. I don't know. It's very weird. I think he thinks it's an agent and he's trying to fight with that person. And anyway, so there's a scuffle going on. There's about 3 or 4 agents around. And if you listen to the video, you hear somebody yell, gun, gun. And he has a gun with him, which taking a gun to a protest, yes, Second Amendment right, but you got to know better than to take it to a protest where people are agitated is not a very smart move. The gun, one of the agents takes the gun and pulls it away. There's conflicting stories now. They haven't fully got it out saying that perhaps the gun misfired. And then that's when the agents decided to go and shoot as well. But all they heard was gun, gun, gun. And then somehow or another, a shot took place. And that opened up a barrage of shots, I think 10 total, unfortunately killing Alex Pretty. So there's video of the guy taking the gun away. So at the time that they did the shooting, Alex Pretty didn't have a gun. However, again, when you hear gun, 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 you're going to be on your P's and Q's. You're going to perk up if you've been in a physical confrontation with somebody because you think if somebody's bringing a gun to a protest and is getting into it with cops, he's more than likely you think he might want to use that gun. So I can see the antsiness of the cops doing that. However, the gun's gone away, shots take place. It's a bad look all around, but for the agents.
Yeah, and that description kind of matches what I've been led to, be inclined to what the video would show. And it sounds to me like, again, it's hard to find what will feel like justice in any case of this because it's a terrible situation, and obviously nobody intended for a death to occur that day. It's easy to throw out the whole analogies of, hey, if you poke around in a hornet's nest, don't be mad if you get stung. But that seems a little, when we're talking about a guy's life, like this is tragic. This should not have happened. The arguments of he absolutely should not have been there. Look, he's an agitator at that point. He's involved in trying to prevent law enforcement officers from doing their job. That is a crime. That is a felony, I believe. Putting your hands on a law enforcement officer is absolutely a felony.
Now let me play the other side because, I get accused of this, even though I say without question, please protest, but do not cause violence, do not impede. You're putting yourself in harm's way to get hurt and or killed, which is the worst case scenario. So I can beg for protest to be peaceful till the day is long. And all I get back on social media is, why don't you answer the real question? Why was he shot? Blah, blah, blah. Or you just, and I keep getting told that I'm watching Fox News and spinning their narrative. Spoiler alert, you can ask my wife this. I watch the Abby Phillips show every single day off CNN. I watch more CNN than I do Fox News. And as I told somebody earlier, it could be, I don't know, maybe I like to hear different points of view, but the main thing is I like getting mad. Okay. So I enjoy CNN. I will watch Fox News on occasion and I will have it on mostly, but for the most part, I watch CNN just so I can argue back and forth because that's what I love doing. So now if you're sitting at home and you're like, yeah, that was a bad shooting. Now let me be the arguing part. Days before he got unfortunately shot, Alex Pretty, which if you listen to the news, CNN, speaking of, he's just an ICU nurse, just the sweetest, most humble guy ever that wouldn't harm a fly. just a great guy. Two things can be true. He could be that guy that works in ICU that was giving the eulogy to veterans and being a very nice guy, but he also can be a psychopath who's out there yelling at the cops and kicking a taillight in, which he did, and he ended up getting a scuffle previously, which they knew he had a gun, and they didn't shoot him then, they didn't kill him then, but they did attack him, and he ended up breaking a rib as he's yelling, not only yelling, spitting at federal officers, causing a ruckus, going around. So they knew who he was. He's been known to be an agitator, and I'm sorry. And no, you should not kill somebody, but spitting on somebody, especially if you're a grown ass man, the fact that those agents couldn't beat the tar out of him right there is amazing, because if you're out there spitting and he kicked the back of a car and broke the tail light in, you're like, well, that's not, it's government property. If I walk up to a fucking cop at Piggy Park or damn Chick-fil-A and kick a tail light in, guess what? I'm going to jail. He didn't even go to jail that day. Why are we not arresting these people if they're doing this kind of stuff? If you're going to go out there kicking, causing damage and stuff, arrest them, plain and simple. And I know you can't arrest everybody, but why not? Because if he kicks, guess what? He kicked the taillight in. He harassed the cops, calling them all kind of names and spit at them. So guess what? Next time he goes out there, oh, they ain't going to do nothing. They're just going to do this. He gets more and more. It gets progressive and progressive. And that's exactly what's happened. We're letting it go to where it's getting progressively worse and worse. And then something unfortunate like him being shot does happen. Why are we letting it go to this point?
You're not wrong, and I think that's part of the underlying issue we deal with is everybody becomes prisoners of the moment, and you try to dissect something from the last 30 seconds of information, and you don't take into account the previous 60 days that led up to that last 30 seconds. And that's just not how reality works. Everything is cyclical and things happen in a sequential order. And if you make a sequence of bad decisions that lead you to a bad situation and then something bad happens, I'm sorry. Look, it's a tragic occurrence. I hate that this man's life was taken in this manner. But he and frankly, all of those agitators and the government officials that are spurring them on, they all have to take some accountability in this. And from a legal standpoint, which is what this is ultimately going to boil down to, I think it's going to break down to the simple fact of, can we identify what was the nature of that first gunshot? If that first gunshot was not directed at him or was any kind of misfire or anything accidental, you can't at that point hold the officers accountable, because like you said, knowing what they knew, knowing the tension in that moment, the aggravation of that situation, if you hear gun, 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 and then you hear a gunshot, every officer in America is trained. They are going to turn and fire at that suspect. Like that's just natural. That's what they're trained in. That's instinct. So at that point, you can't hold them accountable for doing their job. And so from a legal standpoint, I think it breaks down to, do we ever find out what was the nature of that first triggering gunshot?
And of course, the other side is always about trying to make everything look as bad as it possibly can for the Trump administration or anybody that wants to be, as for legal immigration, enforcement of legal immigration in ways, illegal immigration. But do you see MSNBC, the picture that they put up of him? You'll see it because it's making the news and the rounds now, much like this video that just came out a little earlier about how he's been agitating people, where he's like a peaceful, loving guy, but yet he's kicking cars and fighting cops. But, he's just a loving, sweet man. There's a picture that his actual picture, and then there's a picture that MSNBC posted, which they made him tanner. They gave him veneers. They darkened his hair and filled his hair in. So I guess Alex Preddy, according to MSNBC, was too ugly to have sympathy for, because they had to make him look better. So if I get shot, please have MSNBC put the picture out of me, because I want to look good as I can be.
I suppose those sort of visual alterations count as journalism these days.
I guess so. CNN, when Joe Rogan, they put him in as like yellow and about to die when he was talking about how healthy he was and how good he felt when he had COVID. But they can do that. But yeah, they altered his image to make him look, more vibrant, I guess you want to say, a little bulkier too. Which again, it's a tragic story. He doesn't have to be a good-looking man to make it tragic, no
No.
matter if he's ugly or not. I got into it earlier with a guy on social media where he was like, "Oh, you Renee Good, y'all love that since it was a lesbian lady that got killed." I was like, I had no idea she was lesbian until CNN told me every 5 seconds that it was a lesbian lady that was driving the car. I didn't God forbid we didn't know this guy was an ICU nurse because that's all they went on. All the good stuff happens. But again, 2 things can be right. You should not lose your life for protesting, but you also should not be out there agitating and impeding and violent protesting, plain and simple.
No, and to take it one step further, look, I have my concealed carry permit. I do from time to time carry my weapon. I've mentioned that before, but you can bet your bottom dollar that if I ever have any sort of interaction with law enforcement while said weapon is on my body, that will be the first thing I let them know is go, "Hey, officer, I have a weapon on me.
It's
Hands
your
up. Like,
job.
what do
That's
you want
what
me to
you
do?"
that's what you're taught when you have that as we see concealed carry weapon, CCW license, whatever you wanna call it. Yeah. So, I don't know, like, at the end of the day, very, very tragic. But
It is.
also at the end of the day, Mayor Fry and Waltz, even though they're starting to come around now because Trump has not been innocent in this, neither has Kristi Noem. The way they come out immediately and talk, the things they say is a bad look. I don't care. They came out immediately, call him a domestic terrorist, this and that, and all that stuff. Yes. But on the other side, they immediately go to murderer. They call these people, the officers, murderers right away.
I'll take it a step further, and again, I think this is an instance of, to me, what keeps us on the high road compared to the side we're arguing against all the time is I'll vehemently admit I am not a Kristi Noem supporter. I didn't like her put in that position. I haven't liked much of the way she's handled anything about the position, and that last press conference was absolutely deplorable. That was terrible. Like, that is the exact thing that we all sit there and watch the other side do and go, "This is why we can't trust them. This is why we don't listen to them." Look, I think she should be gone. I think she should be replaced. I would not be surprised because, I don't know Donald Trump, but I know he doesn't like to give the other side victories. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already pulling strings behind the scenes to replace her. He just doesn't want to do it right now because he doesn't want to have that, knee jerk reaction and give the other side exactly what they want because they're calling for her head. But I think she's on the hot seat. I think her days are numbered. And again, as much as we hate to do it, and as much as it becomes a challenge at times, I think we have to continue to take the high road. I think we have to continue to focus on the facts, focus on the truth, because at the end of the day, if we're not operating in reality and we're not operating based off the truth, we can't move forward with anything that's worth a damn.
Blame Trump somewhat for this because Trump will say some shit that only he can get away with. Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem think that they can be Trump-like and say some things, but you can't. You just can't. Stephen Miller comes out with some stuff. I'm like, hey, bro, that's a little easy now. That's too far. Kristi Noem, the same thing. And I love Megyn Kelly, but she'll say some stuff. I'm like, whoa, whoa, easy, easy. Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem, I think have good intentions, but the way they talk things is just it's pitiful. It's just too jump to conclusions right away. Like you said, we can't complain about the other side doing it if we turn around and do the exact same thing.
I think Stephen Miller has good intentions, and I respect a lot of the policy that he is responsible for. But yeah, sometimes his message is lost because of the delivery. Christy Nome from day one, I just think she wants to be famous. I just think she wants to be somebody, and she would have taken any position he offered her so she can get on camera in her tight jeans and blouses. And I don't think she never had any business in that position. She got a lot of notoriety for being a governor of one of the damn Dakotas and didn't quite back down and bend the knee during COVID.
And she
So
shot
that
her
somehow
dog.
made her some staunch conservative that we're all supposed to support. Look, y'all can accuse us of being a MAGA cult all you want to. At the end of the day, it doesn't work anymore. We all think for ourselves. We like some of our people. We don't like some of our people. We are capable of such things. And I know that's a mind blowing concept. We don't have to support every single thing. It's okay.
Yeah. Couple things. One, Kristi Noem has to be the hottest thing to ever come out of the Dakotas. She is. I got to give her credit. She's a smoke show now. And two, the fact that we just sit here and somewhat blamed Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, and Donald Trump saying they did things we don't like. You don't hear the other side saying, Jacob Frey, he's nobody's. No, you don't hear anything bad about Walls coming out over there. It's just we able to look at it and with judgment eyes on both sides and just say, "Hey, I just lean this way," but that don't mean everything's right.
Well, and not to mention, I mean, you got to look at this on a more global level. The deportations and all of the immigration issues. This is happening nationally. This is happening everywhere, and it is only an issue in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. And at some point, again, we're not the common sense superheroes if we don't apply some damn common sense. At some point, look at the common denominator. Why is it okay in every other state, but in New York and California and in Chicago, Illinois, and in Minneapolis? Why do we have problems there? Tell me, why is that where the problems lie?
Sanctuary cities is our problem, and that's what you got them wanting to work not wanting to work with the federal law enforcement, but you have
David,
these. Go
let me
ahead.
ask you a question. Is this title of a sanctuary city, is that not just some glorified new mnemonic way of saying, "To hell with the Constitution, we wanna do our own thing"?
In essence, it does seem that way. It sure does. If you refer to the sanctuary cities now, then where were you? I'm glad that it happened. But back in the day when Alabama was tripping out and didn't want people to go to, didn't want African Americans to integrate in schools, and they had to call in the federal government, Kennedy did, to get old Governor Wallace to allow blacks to go to school. Aren't you glad that the federal government got involved then? But now you're like, oh, it's supposed to be states' rights. Sometimes it's good for the government to get involved if your city or your mayor or governor is going crazy, which apparently is the case. And I still think without question that what's going on with they're causing such a haywire now has a lot to do with the fraud that's taking place in Minnesota because all that popped off and then all of a sudden they started all these protests popped up out of nowhere, which seems very organized, shall we say.
Well, you can watch them. I mean, you don't get grassroots people showing up with all the same exact signs and like I mean that's wearing the same exact clothes and branded the same and chanting the same like to put on that sort of demonstration requires organization. And let's be honest, it's impressive organizational skills. They're good at what they do.
You got to give them
It's
props.
tragic that they do it, but they're good at doing it.
Yeah.
You can't lose sight of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just we have to have some law and order. And as knee jerk a reaction is, and even somebody like me to say, hell, let Minneapolis be a sanctuary city. Let them run with that shit. Let them see where it gets them. Let's just cut off all the federal funding, cut off any support from outside, and let them see how far they go. But we can't run a society that way. You can't have a nation that way because as soon as you do that there, Chicago's going to follow suit, LA and all this. And next thing you know, we've got a bunch of little hellholes right in the middle of America that simply don't function. And where do they go when that stops functioning? They start spreading into other cities. You got to stop it. You got to have law and order. It's common sense. And I hate to keep saying it, but it is just common damn sense.
It is. Like I said before, what you allow, you approve of. So if we allow them to get away with this, where they're acting silly and not the protest part, but the violent, the impeding protest. If you allow that, then it's like you're saying you're okay with it. And it's not any way to do it. Like you said, all these other states, the numbers are astronomical, the difference in Texas and Minnesota as far as the amount deported, but yet you didn't see any flack from it. And it wasn't that I don't think it was necessarily a red state, blue state scenario. I think it's just a hey, common sense scenario.
It's even worked in blue cities within red states.
Yeah.
Memphis has been great. Washington D.C. was great because it's just a blue city. It doesn't have. It's look. At the end of the day, you nailed it. Tin Walls is feeling some
Yes, he is.
serious pressure right now because that fraud is gonna come out. And right now, every bit of this is just to distract from the underlying issues. And let's be real, I can't wait to get this Minnesota fraud stuff behind us so we can focus on California and Illinois and the rest of them.
Yeah.
Let's flush it all out.
And I'll be remiss if I didn't mention that, Ilhan Omar was attacked. Now we can laugh about it because we know it was just apple cider vinegar. But at the time, if somebody came up and squirted me with some liquid, I would be pissed off too. I'd be freaking out. Now, would I act like I'm gonna confront the person or keep going? No, I'm going to get that shit washed off. That's just me personally. So there's some talk about whether it was real or not, but let's just say it's real. You can't do that either. I'm anti that. Do not try to attack people in these public places.
No, and I will be transparent, I will be real, and I will be genuine, and I will tell you that personally, I absolutely love the idea of spraying something in Ilhan Omar's face. I'd love to do it. It would tickle me to death to walk up in her and give her that feeling of panic of not knowing what the hell just happened and possibly freaking. I would love to do it. Never gonna happen.
No.
I got common sense. You can't do that stuff. We all know it. It's ridiculous to think that anything like that's allowable. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, Republican, Democrat, right, left, liberal, blah, blah. It's fine. Right and wrong is where we're coming from. And that's what you look at the world through some common sense glasses and you just know what's right and wrong. And so much of this stuff is crystal clear when you just simplify it.
Common sense says if you get a job in the government, you can automatically make $30 million like almost overnight. That's common sense. Clearly,
As a
nothing
fellow
that's all above
entrepreneur,
board.
yeah, as a fellow entrepreneur, I need to get some tips from her husband.
That's above board, much like Paul Pelosi's way better than Warren Buffett at picking stocks. Totally above board. Nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, that's just common sense.
They're gonna get all that stuff addressed. I think
Common
we're despite all the chaos that's presented to us in the news, I think if people can dig a little deeper and really pay attention to some of what's going on, I think we're positioning ourselves pretty well for a much brighter future than any of us thought could be the reality as of even a few years ago. Things are going well with the economy and the underlying. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff happening going on. And I think right now it's just a shame that so much of what we're being force fed is just this negative narrative and all this unnecessary drama that it all boils down to one thing, and it's the Democrats wanting to stay in power. And if we deport the illegals before the 2030 census, it changes the representative numbers and they lose anywhere from probably 6 to 12 seats in the House. And they're scared to death that they will never get power back because it's one thing to pass through lunacy and like just idiot policies when you have those kind of powers working for you. If they lose power and lose the electoral map the way it's currently constituted, we could see a 12 to 20-year run of some good stuff. And that's what terrifies them. It is not about any sort of compassion for these immigrants or anything. It is simply that they need the votes.
I surely hope we have a Vance presidency right after this one, but there's so much we could get into. There's the FBI taking ballots out of Forsyth County in Georgia that we didn't even get into. The mayor and the governor of Minneapolis getting exactly what they want, which is the numbers looking bad for Trump, even though he's doing the right thing that's at a way less scale than what the previous presidents did, which you can go listen to your Hillary Clintons, your Bill Clintons, your Obamas speak way far right of what Trump's saying right now, but there's so much
Well,
to get into. Go
and
ahead.
I really like what he kind of the nature of what I just picked up on as far as the conversations is, he's basically putting it now on them and saying, "Hey, look, just give us the bad guys, give us the guys that you know are criminals and you know are illegal, and we'll get out of your city." And again, if that's put on the table as an offer to say, "Hey, look, all this can go away, all this mess, all this chaos can go away. Just give us the criminal illegals, the really bad ones. That's all we're asking for." If you're Tim Walz or you're Fry and you don't go along with that, what are you saying to your people? What are you telling the world?
Well, I think they're shooting on the fact that there's 70% of the people that have been arrested have not had previous convictions or not hardened criminals or whatever. Okay, well that's 30% that could be. Like if there's 10 people in a room and there's 3 of them that are murderers, I'm like, "Well, hell, okay, I'm good with you taking the 10 to get the 3 out of here." Especially if they're illegal as well. It ain't like there's
Well, and
totally
again,
innocent.
obviously it's a cleaner argument when you're talking about potentially violent people, rapists, pedophiles. Like that's nobody could possibly stand on the ground of saying, "Yes, I want to keep them here." They wouldn't even try that. I think we're getting into the point of now where you're getting into some of those more middle ground, some of those more questionable cases. And again, this will sound terrible, and I know it will, but at the end of the day, all of these people came here with their hand out asking for stuff. And that is not the spirit of why you come to America. You come to America because you want an opportunity. You want to build something. You want to make something of yourself. Anybody that came out here, if they have drawn a dime of social programs since they've been here, I don't care if they've committed a crime or not, get them the hell out for that.
There's a lot of people who were born here that are looking for handouts and can't get it because if you care that much, then you would wanna keep it in the hands of Americans, and that sounds very, pro-America, which I am. I'm sorry, plain and simple.
Don't
I'm not
apologize.
gonna go to I'm not gonna go to Australia and expect you to pay my way. before you do an American Australian citizen. But there's so much we can get into. There's the thing I love about this podcast is hopefully we're going to do another one in a couple of days because there's so many topics we can get into, and I don't want to keep it. I don't want to do no Joe Rogan 3.5 hour podcast, but I damn sure could. But
I don't have the bladder for it, much less the attention span.
I do not. No, I do not. But
And you still hadn't learned how to take a pause.
I ain't got to figure that out without making the damn microphone go down. That's why I'm scared to do it. But that's the episode for the day, folks. We appreciate you checking in with us. Keep giving your feedback. Please keep letting us know how you feel, whether it's good or bad. Trust me, I've heard a lot of bad towards me, and I get that. So please keep bringing it. I'm here for all of it. Greg, you got any parting ways? You got a basketball game you might want to put up for, don't you?
I do. I got a possible NCAA basketball winner tonight. If any of my Thursday degenerates are just looking for some action, it might be worth some pizza and beer money. I take Chattanooga at home against Wofford minus the 1.5. I think it might be a little sweaty.
Terriers,
but
baby.
I think we cover the 1.5 points with Chattanooga. And other than that, we'll tell everybody, let's we got to start doing what all the other shows do, Dave. We got to tell these people to like and comment and subscribe and push all the buttons on all the things so that we can get these miraculous voices spread worldwide.
Well, one of us is a miraculous voice. One of us is nasally and marble mouth, which I don't realize until I listen back. I'm like, can I not speak? But in my defense, I don't get a lot of sleep, so I'm gonna go with that. Well, that's the show for today, guys. Appreciate you tuning in for another episode of the Common Sense Superheroes with David and Greg. Like he said, like, share, spread the word, show some love, whatever you need to do. If you like what we're talking about, tell us you like it. If you don't, tell us that too. Hell, I don't mind. But that's it for today, folks. We'll be back in a couple days, hopefully. Greg, good to have you back, my friend.
Love y'all. God bless.
All right, see you guys.